When titling my piece, I thought it would be really important to make sure that I kept the focus of the piece on what my intention was. So it being an acknowledgement of country, I felt it was just paramount that the title was Acknowledgement of Country for the Gadigal people.
I imagined that there would be an acknowledgement of country somewhere in there. I felt really strongly that at least one student would come forward with this idea, and they did.
So when I found out that I was writing for voice, I decided to write my own poem, which I turned into the lyrics. I drew a lot of inspiration from nature and everything like that, so I had looked into some bird calls and all of those things because I was feeling that it was important that as an acknowledgement of country, we saw nature and we acknowledged the land as well as the people. I listened to some native calls of a rosella and thought that it was very melodic and very beautiful, and so I decided that I wanted to incorporate that actual tune, that melody. So throughout it you hear a rosella call which is slightly modified to make it fit. You hear it in the viola, you hear it in the cello, and you hear it in the voice at one point. I also used other techniques like pizzicato just to replicate the sounds of drips of water, which for me was to again signify references for the three rivers which border the Gadigal land.
It's got lots of very slight, very subtle tempo changes to really reflect the text, and the composer's very clear about what tempo that she wants in those particular areas. But again, I don't have that kind of intrinsic knowledge of the piece of music because I'm only learning it from a piece of paper, whereas she's written it, it's kind of, she embodies it. So for her, it's very clear whether she wants something at this speed or this speed or this speed. So I use a metronome a lot to try and record the tempos that she wants and to make sure that we're rehearsing it at exactly that tempo.
One of my greatest issues was straddling the line as a white woman living in Australia trying to write an acknowledgement of country. I really was trying to be as careful as possible to not write a welcome to country, as that's not my place, and I have to remember that I'm not speaking for anyone. I just wanted to draw awareness and acknowledge the people of the land because I think it's really important.
The acknowledgement of country was that moment that summed up all of the ideas, that summed up the reflection on our shared history on this continent. It summed up the celebration of the longest continuing cultures in the world, and it gives us pause and space to imagine what an Australia looks like where we can truly reflect and celebrate. And I think the shining beauty of Talia's work really deserved that moment at the end.
I think the entire piece is very lyrical and very beautiful, and not only a way for Australians to acknowledge the Gadigal land, but also maybe for future tourists or people from other countries to really appreciate Australian culture, not only for what it is now, but for what it always has been.
Having a voice is really a special thing, and it's the most human expression of music. So really it's the way that composer Talia was able to use the words to express emotion and to combine that within a string orchestra sound.
I really hope that the listeners can take this piece on board. I think it's really important that we do acknowledge the land that we live on, and so I really hope that listeners can be encouraged to keep that on their mind as frequently as they can.